Let's admit everyone. Okay, welcome everyone. Warm welcome to the second seminar of the Sustainable Transformation Seminar Series, Spring 2023. My name is Suhara. I'm a researcher at the Department of Production Engineering, and I will be your host for this session. The seminar series is an initiative of the Researchers Network in the Industrial Transformation Platform at KTH in collaboration with IRIS, ICES, and EMA, Erasmus Mundus Association. Before I introduce our speaker for today, I will just want to remind you a little bit of the dynamic for the session. So we will have the presentation from Zeba for around 25 minutes, and then we will have space for questions and open discussions. And we close the session at 1 p.m. And of course, we invite you to post your questions in the chat throughout the presentation. Towards the end of the session, we will drop a link in the chat for a small survey where we ask your input to help us improve these seminars. The seminar is recorded and we will be available at KTH page and also in our YouTube channel. Okay, without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker for today's session, Zeba Usmani. She's currently working as an eco-design engineer and sustainability specialist at Atlas Copco. She's responsible for driving initiatives and collaboration in different areas of sustainability. She holds a PhD in environmental science from the Indian Institute of Technology, and she has previously worked as a research scientist and researcher engineer at Tallinn University of Technology. She possesses a strong experience in life cycle assessment, product carbon footprint, circular economy, chemical compliance, product compliance, and monitoring upcoming regulations. Welcome, Zeba. We're really happy to have you. So the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Zahara, for the kind words. And hi, everyone. I'm Zeba Usmani. As she introduced me, I will not go further into introduction, but just mention that I'm an eco-design engineer from Atlas Copco Industrial Technique Business Area. So I'll briefly mention about the company. We are a manufacturing company, mostly B2B, and we manufacture these industrial tools like grinders, Nutrunners, sanders, mostly for motor vehicle industries like trucks and bus manufacturing, car manufacturing, aerospace, and general industry like mobile industries or any general appliances industries. So it was just a brief because why eco-design is important to us being a manufacturing company was the reason I wanted to highlight. And I have my manager from product compliance here, Alexandra Jurek. So I would just like to say hi. So I'll share my screen, I'll go through the presentation, and do let me know if you have any questions. So you can see my screen.
Yes, it's good.
So the title or the topic today is the eco-design development, which is considered to be a very important aspect for sustainable transformation. And when I say about industrial technique business area that I work in, eco-design and environmental aspects of product development are not new to us. At Atlas Copco, we had a history of developing modular tools with respect for materials and natural resources. And the practices for eco-design is closely linked to the engineering discipline. So that is why we have gathered here to discuss more on it. The agenda is broadly classified into what is eco-design and the different aspects or focus areas of eco-design. Moving on to the brief introduction about eco-design. So there are three basic principles when designing for greener products: green design, eco-design, and sustainable design, which are considered to be very important. And all these three principles work towards reducing the usage of non-renewable resources, cutting down waste, and developing a very productive and functional environment. They also focus on reducing the climate and environmental impact from our products and solutions. They're often used interchangeably, but there are some differences between the three. When we are saying green design, it focuses on optimizing the individual aspects of the product. For example, if you want to improve the energy consumption of a product, that could be one of the aspects of green design. Ecodesign, on the other hand, considers environmental aspects from every stage of the product development process and strives to have the lowest possible environmental and climate impact at every stage. In addition to eco-design, when we also include the economic and social aspects like ethical sourcing, human rights, no child labor, and avoiding corruption could be together considered as sustainable design also. So this was just the basic concept. Moving on to the benefits, there are many. I've just highlighted a few of them here. Integrating eco-design concepts into engineering will result in better quality products, which have a longer life. Why? Because we will use more long-lasting materials. We will have much more energy efficient production because we will provide much more energy efficient tools to our customers, which will require lesser use of virgin materials. Reducing climate impact is also one prime focus for eco-design. And again, we have this life cycle approach to innovation for our products specifically, and we like to have a lower energy consumption, and we achieve that through innovation in our products. It's not only important to incorporate all these eco-design aspects into engineering, but we can also communicate about it because it will be a great market differentiator in coming years. And then we will also have happier customers or consumers, since people are so much aware about sustainability and they want to buy more sustainable products. And we will build a value chain based on sustainability, promoting more sustainable industries, because we will have the same expectations from our suppliers and customers. Moving on to why it is important for Atlas Copco. So our vision for Atlas Copco Industrial Technique business area has 4 major areas that we think about. Sustainability. Eco-design is a very important aspect of sustainability strategy. We are a global company and we think that we have an innovating power, resource, and also insights to build a common sustainable future for all. When we say profit by utilizing energy and resources to the fullest potential, we will develop a cost-efficient business. Legislation is the part of compliance where I work in. It's not only important to comply with all the environmental regulation, but it's also, we always strive to be better than that, to reduce the climate and environmental impact from our products and solutions. When we say minimize footprint, Atlas Copco, we have committed to the science-based targets, which is voluntary thing. But by doing that, we will evaluate on the CO2 emissions from our products, and it will ensure that we have reduced CO2 for every new product, which will not only reduce the carbon footprint for Atlas Copco, but also for the customers who are using that product in their operations. So it will enable into a leading sustainable company, and that's the goal that we have. And now talking about more technical aspects, if we look at the focus areas of the eco-design, these will not only help us in achieving the productivity and functionality, but also the different sustainability aspects of the product. So the first focus areas include is eliminating hazardous substances from our product. Second is the good material choice. Third talks about the design for circularity, which could include design for repair, reuse, remanufacture, assembly, disassembly, and recycling. Then we talk about the energy efficiency, which is a very important factor, reducing carbon footprint. In general, energy efficiency and carbon footprint have a very linear relationship. If you reduce the energy consumption of a product, automatically the carbon footprint will also be reduced. And the sixth one is providing proper information to the customers. So now we will look more in detail one by one. When we say about eliminating hazardous substances, all Atlas Copco products, for example, or any product should comply to the customer and legal requirements. There are several environmental regulations laid down by EU or different countries that we should follow to. And in Atlas Copco, what we do regarding chemicals, we have a prohibited list and a declarable list, where we list on the chemicals which could not be used if they are in the prohibited list. And if we are using any chemical from the declarable list, we need to inform to our customers. And that is a legal obligation to do that. And these lists get updated twice a year based on different national and international legislations. Because if we want to market our products into different countries, we need to comply with them. And this is applicable not only for the chemical mixtures such as grease, lubricants that we use, but also for the components in our products that are being used. So we also need to have the safety data sheets available for the grease or the lubricants that we use. They generally contain information on the basic chemical ingredients and handling, how should the chemical be handled or stored. And we have a management system that we call the chemical management system to store all the safety data sheets so that they are available when a logistic person need that or our customers need that. So this is how we keep track of hazardous substances and how we try to eliminate hazardous substances right from the beginning of the design phase when we are deciding on the materials that we are going to use for our products. Moving on to the circular economy part. So as it's mentioned that for a long time, businesses have been following this linear economy model, take, make, and waste. There is linear usage of raw materials and the products are used and finally downcycled as waste. But this is not very efficient process to follow. Even if we try to make our manufacturing processes as efficient as possible or reduce the energy consumption from our products, it does not fulfill the purpose. We should think in a circular way, a way in which the resources return back to the user as remanufactured or reused or recycled components. And that's what is called a circular economy, where we talk about the loops. As you can see here in the picture in the right, we include repair. Why? Because repair prolongs the lifetime of the product. If we provide proactive or preventative maintenance, we can keep the product for a longer duration rather than just extracting out virgin materials from the earth and making new products all over again and again. So reuse, again, if we could reuse some of the components, if the customers give us back or the businesses give back the products, and we can reuse them and make a new product by refurbishing them, is also an option. So this is how we'll keep it in circular loops, and ultimately what we would get at the end will be a circular product which operates within a circular economy model. It does not need a lot of virgin materials and have been designed with an end of life in mind. So how we at ITB-A or the industrial technique business area try to incorporate this, there are three basic concepts. That is design for assembly. When we say design for assembly, it's like improving the product design for reducing cost, enhancing safety, and how we ensure that. What are the points? These are ensuring easy, safe, logical assembly, or having a modular design, avoiding permanent fixing of parts, avoiding soldering and permanent gluing because it becomes very difficult to recycle them at the end or disassemble them at the end. Also, the product should be fit enough for package, for transporting them, for transporting in the packages all over the world, wherever we are shipping them. And then we talk about the design for assembly. So what could be the factors? Like the products should have less number of fasteners. It should require less number of tools to disassemble. And also we should ensure that there are no prohibited or declarable list chemicals. As I said, the hazardous chemicals are there so that it's easy to disassemble them for any operator with all the safety required. When we say design for recyclability, we should try to select materials which could be easily recyclable. Like if we are trying to select a plastic material, it should have good recycling infrastructure, and we should definitely look into that. So all these three concepts would lead into eco-design for circularity, which will ensure that our product stays in multiple consecutive loops. And just giving an example of design for assembly. So I've just put here an example of a Nutrunner that we sell. It's called ITB-A. It's not the same as the business area, but the abbreviation states it as ITB-A. So when we look at the design for assembly aspects, it has a very improved ergonomics, which is also an important point because an operator has to use this tool throughout the day, for example. Then it has an improved design. It has a battery which could be easily attached and detached. So all these requirements are coming from the Ecodesign directive or the upcoming regulations also. That's the reason why we want to have them in the products. And it's going to the example of instructions or design for disassembly and recycling. So what we try to do, we provide an exploded view of our product and how it should be recycled based on the part they have. Like if there are two pieces and it's metal, it should be recycled as steel at the end of life. So this is the information we do provide, and it's on a public website called Survey, if you would like to go there and visit. And this is the way we try to incorporate different aspects of eco-design into our products when we design. And moving on to product carbon footprint, again, as I mentioned, it's a very important aspect. We committed to science-based targets. We are also contributing to the UN SDG goals, specifically 9 and 10, and we take a life cycle approach towards innovation. So for all our new products and the redesigned products, we do a carbon calculation and also check if the carbon emissions are lower compared to the previous generation. And this is how we innovate, and this is how we reduce our CO2 emissions or the energy consumption. Moving on to energy efficiency, as I was talking before also, it's a very important aspect. So it's just an example for our tool. Most of the tools are either in switch on or switch off stage. So when it is on a switch on stage, how much energy is it taking? And then it's in a switch off stage, or we call it in standby stage, like you have the chargers plugged in somewhere and you are not operating on the laptop though. So we should ensure that we should try to reduce the standby consumption as much as possible. We should not keep our chargers on if it's not of no use, if you're not using your laptops, for example, just giving a basic example here. And we should always try to use components in our product which reduces the energy consumption. If it's possible to introduce sleep modes to displays, be it a mobile phone or a controller that we use for our tools. So we should try to look at ways how we could reduce the energy consumption of the products by innovation. And I know engineers and designers very well try to incorporate both things, right, from the functionality and also the reducing the energy consumption part. And coming on to the environmental review. So we talked about so many different focus areas. How do we ensure that these things are followed? So we have a checklist. We have a checklist of questions where we ask about legal requirements, whether the product fulfills the local legal requirements, whether the products comply with our black and gray list. Do we have all the chemicals safety data sheet available? Have we done the carbon calculations? Are we following the circular economy aspects regarding the design for reuse if we have repairable spare parts available for the product for a long time? All these aspects along with packaging, because we do put a lot of packaging into the market through our products. We ensure that the project manager works with the eco-design engineer and right from the beginning of the design phase and look at these points right at the place where we have a control over what materials could be used in our product and what chemicals should not be there in the products. And this is the way we embed the carbon footprint calculation and also the environmental review that we do in our product development process. And it's very important to do that. So coming on to the last focus areas, which is providing information to the customers. So we have different channels by which we communicate through our customers. You must have seen several technical documentation coming with your electronic products, how to use, how to assemble. So we do the same. We provide how you should use the tool, how you should assemble the tool, when you should do the service so that the product lives longer, and how should you recycle and how should you disassemble. All this information goes along with our products that we sell into the market. And it's also a public information, as I mentioned on Surveyed. If you would like, I will put that in the chat. So this is all about the eco-design aspects that we follow. But as I say, it's just the beginning. By contributing to a reduced climate impact and by thinking about circularity, we'll ultimately transform our business and we'll have a sustainable business following up. So this was all about my presentation. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Great. Thank you, Zeba, for such a nice presentation. And now we would like to open up for questions. So we welcome everyone either to unmute yourself or you can use the chat to post your questions and I can pick up on that.
I had a question, if I may. Thank you, Zeba, for a nice presentation, very comprehensive flow of all what you're doing, which is a lot for Ecodesign. My question is about the part of designing for circularity. So how do you come about choosing the end-of-life strategy? Because it could be designed for reman, designed for recycling or reuse or many others. And if you have a very complex product, then each of all the parts could, like some could be recycled, some not. So my question is, how do you approach that decision?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what we try to do is like right at the beginning of the product development process, like when the design is not yet ready, we look at the materials and we also check if the materials have good recyclability or not. Sometimes it's difficult to get some components which have recycled material content, which is another aspect of this. But we definitely try to look for plastic materials which have good recyclability. We also try to look at like if it's steel or if it's any metal part that could be easily recycled. And from the design perspective specifically, because that part comes mostly from the sourcing, but from design perspective, we also need to ensure that if you're using a particular recycled material, for example, that should also fulfill the functionality of the product. It should have all the basic properties. And for reuse, if you say that we are looking at some electronic boards, for example, if we could reuse them in our new products, if the customers give us back to them, because they are not having proprietary functions, they could be reused somehow. So we are investigating, we are running several circularity projects actually, specifically for the battery and neodymium, which is a rare earth metal. And we have explored the options if we could reuse, if it would be easy to repair that or to have a spare part available for a long time. So we do investigate a lot on each of the aspects. And last would be the recycling part. When you have no other aspect, no other options from reuse and remanufacturing, then we go for the recycling. For example, I try to look into neodymium, which is in most of the electric motors used, or also in the earphones. And there is no recycling infrastructure throughout Europe. So we were thinking that how could we maybe reuse some rotors or the electronic motor in our new products. So we need to investigate on each of that aspect. And along with that, a business model involving circularity is also important because it will involve some cost, and we should also convince our customers to give it back to us, because we cannot be the lone players when we think about circularity. And currently the state is like we sell our products and we provide all the information through the technical documentation, but the customers don't give anything back at the end of life because they want to own the product. If they give us back, then maybe we can think more about it. So we also need to convince the customers to give us back, maybe through an incentivized price, or maybe through some sort of credit to them for future. So yeah, it's mostly from the design phase. We initially try to do as much internally we can do to ensure that the product has a circular lifetime. But I know we are also trying to avoid proprietary functions on a charger now, that a single charger can charge 3 different types of battery, for example. So this could also be a design change incorporated from the research and development or the design phase itself internally.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, I think someone has a question. Mahesh, yes?
Yes. Thank you for the nice presentation, Zeba. I'm actually guilty of joining a little late, so maybe you answered this, but I'll ask anyways.
Yeah.
It was one of your first slides where you discussed about green design, eco-design, and sustainable design.
Yeah.
I would like to know, are these mutually exclusive aspects or?
Yeah, actually, these are like when we talk about eco-design and sustainable design, they all are including one or the other. Like eco-design would consider aspects from green design, and when we talk sustainable design, it's a broader aspect. Because when we talk about sustainability, it's often thought it's something related to environment and climate, but it also includes a lot of social aspects and economic aspects. Are we affecting the area where we are doing business? How are we socially working with the different business partners, for example? Are we ethically sourcing our raw materials? So all of these clubbed together becomes a sustainable design. But green design is an aspect of eco-design, and green design and eco-design combinedly is an aspect of sustainable design, including additional economic and social aspects.
So sustainable design would be like the overarching
overall,
includes everything. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Do we have more questions from the audience? Feel free to unmute. I see someone, Sion, unmuting herself. Please.
Yes, I have a short question. I think I agree doing the eco design is a very smart way to what's that, more efficient recycling process for the product. So my question is, do you already have a recycling line in the company, or do you have any plan to have a recycling line in the company?
Yeah, so like what we try to do is when we put our products into the market, we do not do any recycling from our part as a company, but we do have some third-party companies where we pay an annual fee and they do the collection and recycling from our behalf. So when we put these products into the market, we also register to the local company in the country. For example, if you're putting something in Sweden, we have Elkretsen, a commonly known company handling the electronic waste or the battery waste from different businesses. So there, they do the collection every month or weekly. I'm not exactly sure about that. And they do the recycling for us. And sometimes we get the report how much % of it is recycled, and in some of the cases we do not. So this is the same thing which is followed in every country, because every country has a local regulation about dealing with electronic waste or battery waste, which they should follow. And most of the customer centers that we have in Atlas Copco, they pay a fee to a third-party company who's handling the waste at the end. But we also provide this opportunity to the customers to give us the products back at the end of life once they have used it. Most of the cases we do not get it back because the customer wants to own the product, and also they might be reusing some aluminum or steel parts in other places, which is also a good thing. And we know generally they are professionals, so they know how the sorting should be done. We also provide the recycling information, and they might also be contacting some third-party company to get the recycling done. But the only problem, what I feel, is we do not get a recycling percentage based on the products we put into the market. And that is what we are working on now. If we could have a third-party company, for example, just having a pilot study with that in Europe, and that they can actually track the amount recycled than put into the market, would be very interesting to see in future. And yeah. So, but we have all the recycling being done for all the different types of waste, and also the sorting done. If we talk specifically about the office waste or the, our product companies, customer centers waste, we do that.
Thank you for your answer. Oh, and I have one more question, sorry. Did I take a long time for that? So one more question is, I saw you have, for the sustainable design, you also have some design about the chemicals you use for the future. So
yes.
Does it mean that you are also developing or seeking for more recyclable, more biodegradable materials for the product?
Definitely, and that is a prior thing. Like now, I know that we have been testing some bio-based plastics, and we're looking with the different biomaterial companies that if we could use something which is much more easy to recycle and does not have any hazardous chemical in the chemical processes or in the homogeneous material. So definitely, we are looking towards it, and also talking to different companies if we could use that. And it would not, if it does not affect the functionality of the product, because of course we have very high quality products, and it is also a very important factor for us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have another question from Ayari, please. I see.
Yes, I had a follow-up question when we were discussing sustainable design.
Yeah.
How can you quantify two different or more design choices? Like, how do you know if one design is more sustainable than the other? Because it's like very broad.
Yeah, no, that's again a good question. The thing is, I mentioned about the environmental review which we do for our products. So like if we have two products, product A and B, we do the environmental review for product A and B, and we have a set of questions from circularity aspect, whether the product could be reused, what is the lifetime of the product, are the spare parts available, and all those type of questions. Is the product made up of recycled material content? And have we done the CO2 calculations? What is the CO2 emission of this product? So all these different questions we try to compare, and then we can compare the product A and B, which one is better, right from the design stage, which could be more reusable if we think in the future, which could be remanufactured, or also which has more recycled material or made up of materials which are small. So we have developed an internal metrics to do that, but all those internal metrics are backed up from the environmental regulations that are in place, specifically coming from the Ecodesign directive, and it's also going to be updated now. So the requirements regarding recyclability, repairability comes from the Ecodesign directive that we try to incorporate. So based on legal requirements, whether they fulfill circularity, CO2 emissions, we have provided an internal metrics that we can do and compare to products. But yes, it's something that we do, but we also report on the CO2, which is considered to be the 80% aspect when you say a product is sustainable. Rest comes from the modularity, presence of chemical substances, repairability or serviceability, and like recycling. But again, then the 80% part that is coming from the CO2 is something we report, and these reports get audited by the third-party company. And that's also how we compare product A and B, which is more better with respect to CO2 emissions. So we have that done also.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's about, you mentioned the eco-design. So how long have you run this eco-design project? I mean, when you start to do the eco-design for the product, and how long you think it will be like fully analyzed and then can be used for all the products?
Yeah, so the thing is, the eco-design concept has existed in our business area since 5-7 years. And Alexandra, she's here in the meeting, and she has worked also a lot. So when I took the job, she passed several information regarding the eco-design that we have now, and that could be done with the environmental review that we do for the products. So when a product is just starting, it's in the beginning phase, we do the initial eco-design review or the environmental review, asking on the questions. And it might take 2 years or 3 years for the product to come into the market. So we think that most of the aspects could be, or of the eco-design review could be answered by then. But if you ask upon each and every aspect from circularity being incorporated into the product, it would take time. It would take time, but of course we comply and we follow all the regulations with what is required for our set of products to be in the market. But yes, we need to be better also, depending upon the requirements coming in, how should we fulfill? Because EU comes up with a law which is very vague, and then we need to think how should we comply to that. So sometimes it takes a lot of time to get the implementation done. Even if we have to change a small label on our product, we need a lot of back work for that. So we need to plan at least an year before doing anything. So yeah. But yes, the good thing is building the perspective. So we have been doing a lot of trainings. We have laid down the eco-design guidelines. We have that in our routine and management procedures. And we have also we also have responsibilities assigned to different functions, like sourcing should do this one, R&D should do this, and marketing should do this. So all those functions coming together will help in making a complete product with all eco-design aspects incorporated. Yeah.
Thank you for the detailed answer.
Thank you.
It's very exciting to see that in the future too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have another question.
Yes, Mahesh.
You talked about legislations, but I would like to discuss a little bit about your customers. I mean, you are a big company yourself, and you have a lot of goals for Atlas Copco for sure. But is there a difference in terms of your OEMs that you sell your tools to would like to have or is there an alignment between the requirements that the OEMs have on Atlas Copco and the other way around? Is there an alignment or is there mismatch? And if so, how would you deal with those things?
Yeah. Again,
design or sustainability aspects.
Yeah, definitely. So whenever we start a new project, so we have some design in mind, but the basic voice is coming from the customers. Customers say, we want this, we want the sustainability aspects. We also want this function. You should have this laser aligned there, for example. So we definitely take into account the voice of the customer right at the beginning of any new project. along with the legal requirements. If they want a tool to be customized for them, we work towards that, definitely. And Mahesh, if you want to know more about if our customers are more interested in having the sustainability aspects, yes, like we did a survey with most of our customers' accounts, and they were very much keen because they have also committed to these CO2 targets, and they wanted the circularity aspects to be incorporated, and they are really keen in working with us. Some of the customers even want to give us the tools back to have a circularity model developed. So we did that mapping, and any of the customer demands comes right at the beginning of a new project. We do take that into account, and our marketing specialists are in contact with them right at the beginning.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, maybe I can follow up with a question. I want still some room. Well, I think I have many questions, but maybe one that I think is really interesting. What you mentioned that you need to, is very important to integrate sustainability from the design of the product. So I wonder, you mentioned, for instance, that you have like the eco-design engineer working together with the project manager and then these different checklists. But then how do you follow up throughout this whole process? You mentioned a little bit about your progress within these 5-7 years, but what are some of the learnings, maybe some of the things that you've done to actually make sure that things kind of like follow along and it doesn't get lost along the way?
Yeah, that's also a good point. So when we do these eco-design reviews, we also highlight on what could be better, what are our lessons learned for our project. So when we have a similar product coming up, so we right from the beginning of that project, we try to incorporate that changes. Like, okay, we found that this design was not appropriate and the tool was having problems with the repair part and it was not living more than 1 year or 2 years. Then definitely we do incorporate good design changes so that it could live at least 4 or 5 years. We have the lesson learned section in our eco-design review, which the project manager follows when they are working on a similar project later on. And we also like highlight together, not only from compliance perspective, I'm saying here, or eco-design perspective, but from the design perspective and functionality perspective, all those problems that we observe are jotted down together and have been worked upon for the future also.
Maybe if I cannot ask like a follow-up question to that, because I think maybe it was during in your description of the seminar, highlighting also the eco manufacturing. So I guess when the product is being produced, like what kind of mechanisms there you have in place and to kind of like minimize also the impact?
So, like the good thing about our manufacturing sites, if I could say, I can give an example of Tierp in Sweden. We have complete renewable electricity there for doing the operations. We have green heating certificates. So this emissions that is coming from the operations is completely very low, very, very low. That is one part. And when we talk about eco-manufacturing, that when we have the different production steps, at every production steps, we have tried to reduce waste. I think it's around 98% reduction in the waste or so. I'm not quoting the number here. I'm not exactly sure of that, but yes, we work towards optimizing the production process. We have an yearly review on that so that at every step, the waste is reduced and all the waste which is generated goes to a third-party company where we also ensure that we can use the recycled material, for example, as steel, right back into our products. I do not say the same for other materials, but at least for steel, we know we are using 98% recycled steel there. So yeah, we ensure that we reduce waste at every step and we report on waste, and we also highlight different entities who have higher waste, and our target is zero waste to landfill. So that could be ensured right at the production processes also.
Yeah, thank you. I see maybe there's one more question from Siam. Yes.
It's a follow-up question from Zohara. It's maybe you mentioned that, but maybe I forgot. Is when you say you calculate the CO2 emission, you mean is calculate to cover the whole life of the product, or?
Yeah, that's correct. Right from the sourcing of raw materials or components from the suppliers to being to the inbound transportation part, to the materials embodied emissions part, to the outbound transport, to the customers, to the production part, and of course the use phase. So more than 90% of the CO2 is generated during the use phase. So if we increase the energy efficiency of the product, we will have a significant contribution in the reduction in the CO2 emissions from our product. That's what we aim at through the help of our design.
So does it mean the selection of the third party for collaboration in recycling or transport is also very important for the CO2 emission chain? Or does it, I mean, whether the partners will be affected?
So I would, since we analyze the entire product life cycle, so currently we are not taking the emissions that is referred to as scope 4. If you must be aware of what scope 4 is, that is avoided emissions at the end of life. So that is currently not taken into account because we don't have a proper knowledge what customer is doing with our products at the end of life, whether they are sorting it or sending out to the recycling company. As I mentioned before, we do not get the report. But yes, if you are thinking about having a proper recycling developed for your products with help of a third-party company, definitely you should take into account the transportation distance. If it's like too far, then definitely it will have a high CO2 emissions. And it should, in general, you should have local recycling centers, if possible, where you should connect with. Then you have a very low transportation cost. And also you will avoid a lot of regulations there.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yes. Maybe now that we're towards the end, I would like to ask you, Zeba, is there any exciting things that you're working right now? I mean, you mentioned we're only at the beginning, so maybe you have some things that you didn't put in the presentation that you are really excited that you want to share with us.
Yeah, the thing is like we are trying to currently assess our circularity or sustainability aspect for the product more coherently. And the thing is, we are also working towards several circularity projects. It's not only talking about the battery, we're also looking at the packaging now. Like how can we reduce the plastic packaging, for example. And then we have projects running all across our business area where people are moving more towards the renewable electricity, not only the product companies or the manufacturing plants, but also the customer centers. And that's also how we reduce our climate impact. And wastes, of course, as I mentioned, that we have several goals regarding waste. And this is all about the environment and climate. We are doing a lot in the safety area also, like ensuring that the number of risks are reduced. We are triple ISO certified for quality and health and safety, and also for the environmental management systems. And yeah, so I think there are a lot of things going on related to sustainability, not only from products part, but also people and ethics and diversity and inclusive culture that I have not highlighted. It's a big part actually of sustainability if you talk.
Yes, I think with that, we close today's session, and we thank everyone for nice discussion, and also you, Zeba, for your presentation and for kindly coming today. And we welcome you to help us with your feedback in the survey, and of course, stay in contact for the future events, and also reach out to Zeba, of course, if you have further questions to discuss.
Sure.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you so much. Thanks for a very interactive session. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you.